I would like to advise all those present that notice of this regular meeting of January 18, 2023 has been provided to the public in accordance with the provisions of the Open Public Meeting Act of the State of New Jersey. Notice of time and place of this meeting has been included in the annual notice of meetings, which was posted and filed with the City Clerk and with the Jersey Journal and the Star Ledger. An additional notice of time and place was posted and filed with the City Clerk and was forwarded to the Jersey Journal and Star Ledger on January 13, 2023. The regular meeting of the Municipal Council of the City of Bayonne is now in session. Ms. Medina, please call the roll.
Mr. Booker?
Here.
Mr. Carroll?
Here.
Mr. Perez?
Here.
Ms. Weimer?
Here.
Mr. La Palusa?
Here. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our first item is an ordinance amending and supplementing the revised general ordinances of the City of Bayonne, Chapter 10, Taxation and Special Improvement, which was introduced and passed first reading at the meeting held December 14, 2022, was published in the Jersey Journal and posted on the bulletin board as required by law. With notice that it would be further considered for final passage following a public hearing at this meeting of January 18th, is now before the Council for its consideration and a public hearing. And a resolution moved by the Council President giving the ordinance second reading. Mr. Perez, will you second?
Second.
And on that resolution, Mr. Booker.
Aye.
Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Weimer.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
Second reading is by title, an ordinance amending and supplementing the revised general ordinances of the City of Bayonne, Chapter 10, Taxation and Special Improvements. The council is now ready to give all persons interested in this ordinance an opportunity to be heard concerning it. The council president will recognize anyone who wishes to speak. No protest against, objections to, or statements in favor of this ordinance or its passage has been filed with me. May I have a motion to close?
Second.
Motion to close. Mr. Booker.
Aye.
Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Weimer.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
And a resolution ordering final passage.
Double. Second.
On that resolution, Mr. Booker.
Aye.
Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Weimer.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
2 is an ordinance of the City of Bayonne, County of Hudson, New Jersey, adopting a redevelopment plan titled Redevelopment Plan 69-73 LaFontaine Way, also known as Block 412, Block 2, as Block 3, as shown on the official tax map of the City of Bayonne, pursuant to the local redevelopment and housing law, which was introduced and passed the first reading at the meeting held December 14, 2022, was published in the Jersey Journal and posted on the bulletin board as required by law, with notice that it would be further considered for final passage following a public hearing at this meeting of January 18. It is now before the council for a public hearing and for consideration and a public hearing. And a resolution moved by Council Member Perez giving the ordinance second reading. Mr. Booker, will you second?
Second.
And on the resolution, Mr. Booker.
Aye.
Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Weimer.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
Second reading is by title, an ordinance of the City of Bayonne, County of Hudson, New Jersey, adopting a redevelopment plan titled Redevelopment Plan 69-73 LaFontaine Way, as also known as Block 412, Block 3, as shown on the official tax map of the City of Bayonne, pursuant to the local redevelopment and housing law. The council is now ready to give all persons interested in this ordinance an opportunity to be heard concerning it. The council president will recognize anyone who wishes to speak. Any questions on 02? No protest against, objections to, or statements in favor of this ordinance or its passage has been filed with me. I have a motion to close.
So moved. Second.
On the motion to close, Mr. Booker.
Aye.
Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Weimer.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
And a resolution ordering final passage.
So moved.
And a second.
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 On the final passage, Mr. now before the council for its consideration and a public hearing. And a resolution moved by Councilmember Perez, giving the ordinance second reading. Mr. Booker, will you second?
Second.
And on the resolution, Mr. Booker.
Aye.
Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Weimer.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
Second reading is by title, an ordinance of the City of Bayonne, County of Hudson, State of New Jersey, approving a financial agreement by and between the City of Bayonne and 7 Hook Road Urban Renewal LLC. The council is now ready to give all persons interested in this ordinance an opportunity to be heard concerning it. The council president will recognize anyone who wishes to speak. No protest against, objections to, or statements in favor of this ordinance or its passage has been filed with me. May I have a motion to close?
So moved. Second.
And on the motion to close, Mr. Booker.
Aye.
Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Weimer.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
And a resolution ordering final passage.
So moved. Second.
And on the resolution ordering final passage, Mr. Booker.
Aye.
Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Weimer.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa.
Ordinarily, I don't usually like the financial agreements, especially for the residential, but this is commercial property. Going to provide roughly 120 jobs, and so I'm going to vote aye.
04 is an ordinance of the City of Bayonne, County of Hudson, State of New Jersey, approving and authorizing the execution of a reimbursement agreement by and between the City of Bayonne and 7 Hook Road Urban Renewal LLC, which was introduced and passed at first reading at the meeting held December 14, 2022, was published in the Jersey Journal and posted on the bulletin boards required by law, with notice that it would be further considered for final passage following a public hearing at this meeting on January 18th. It is now before the council for its consideration and a public hearing. And a resolution moved by Council President, giving the ordinance second reading. Mr. Perez, will you second?
Second.
And on the resolution, Mr. Booker.
Aye.
Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Weimer.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa.
Aye. Madeline, I want to let John explain this a little bit further.
Let me
before we
just-
move on. Yeah,
Do a second.
after this. After John, thank you.
Second reading. The council is now ready to give all persons interested in this ordinance an opportunity to be heard concerning it. The council president will recognize anyone who wishes to speak. And now it's John's turn.
All right, good evening, everyone. John Wuchaskala, a pleasure to be before the council tonight. Just by way of quick summary, this is obviously the 7 Hook Road project. Can you hear me okay?
You have to push the button. So
I usually project well enough.
yeah, we have to hold it so that you get the whole.
Right on. Okay, there we go. Usually I project loud enough that it seems like I'm speaking.
People at home
So,
don't hear.
so anyway, this particular agreement pertains to 7 Hook Road. It's a 7 Hook Road urban renewal project. It is proposing the development, I believe, of approximately 70,000 square foot warehouse facility on that property. It is a reimbursement agreement between the redeveloper entity and the city, but I just want to explain what this is. There is currently no sanitary sewer down in that lower Hook area. There is also deficient stormwater management facilities down in that area. The redeveloper in this regard is actually taking it upon themselves to provide sanitary sewer down there that is size large enough that it does not only accommodate their project, but if some of the other property owners down in that area decide to avail themselves, if they develop their properties or just look to connect their existing properties, they will have sanitary sewerage available. Same thing goes for stormwater management. We've got really deficient stormwater management facilities there in size of piping and some of the structures. There's an issue with an applet structure. So the redeveloper in this regard has proposed, again, not just to deal with it relative to what their specific needs are, but to size something that's large enough that it will accommodate the needs of some of those other property owners that are down there. So what we've essentially put together, and this is not uncommon, it's a reimbursement agreement. It is not the city reimbursing the redeveloper in any way. It's basically providing that if those other property owners who will benefit by the result of that organization, that redeveloper, providing the additional benefit of sanitary sewer, which will benefit their properties, as well as stormwater management facilities that the redeveloper would be reimbursed by those parties connecting to those facilities. Regarding sanitary sewer, it would be based on a pro rata share of the cost, based on what their sewer allocations would be or discharge. When those developers come in, if they're going to avail themselves of connecting to sanitary sewer, they do have to go to the DEP. They have to seek a treatment works approval that'll say this is how much gallonage we are going to be providing into the system, and they would pay their fair share contribution of that infrastructure improvement. The city, as it relates to sanitary sewer, we're still providing the sewer. We still are, the city still will receive sewer connection fees from a developer. We get paid the service charges that are associated with the treatment of the sewer flows, but it's really just to reimburse the developer who on the front end is taking on the full cost of that improvement to benefit not only themselves but other property owners if they connect. As it relates to stormwater, it's similar. The formula is a little bit different. It's based on acreage of impervious coverage, and there's a number that is in the reimbursement agreement that would provide for so much amount of impervious coverage, which would generate the stormwater flow that would go into this system, no longer going into any, or in this case, not going into a combined sanitary stormwater system. That's what the agreement provides as well. I would also advise the council, the document does provide, so when a developer comes in, seeks a building permit, that's essentially the point at which they would have to pay this fee. Our document does provide under no circumstances will the city ever become liable or responsible for those fees. So if there's a breakdown down the road and there's a lack of communication for whatever reason, the city's not going to be responsible for it. And our agreement also provides notices will be provided. The reimbursement agreement actually identifies the block and lots of the other property owners in that area that would be the beneficiaries. So notices are going to go out with, assuming the council adopts the ordinance, with a copy of the ordinance to put those owners on notice that this is a responsibility. It also puts them on notice of the fact that they are going to, if they're looking to do something with their property, they're going to have the benefit of, sewer, sanitary sewer that doesn't exist, as well as additional stormwater sewer capacity.
And one additional thing that I read is that the agreement will end when he's 100% reimbursed. So it's not a money-making thing that will go on into the future.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
Anyone else? No protest against, objections to, or statements in favor of this ordinance or its passage has been filed with me. May I have a motion to close?
Move it.
Second.
And on the motion to close, Mr. Booker.
Aye.
Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Weimer.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
And a resolution ordering final passage.
Move it.
Second.
And on that resolution, Mr. Booker.
Aye.
Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Weimer.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
05 is an ordinance amending and supplementing the revised general ordinances of the City of Bayonne, Chapter 2, Administration, which was introduced and passed the first reading at the meeting held December 14th, was published in the Jersey Journal and posted on the bulletin board as required by law, with notice that it would be further considered for final passage following a public hearing at this meeting of January 18th, is now before the council for its consideration and a public hearing. And a resolution moved by Councilmember Perez, giving the ordinance second reading. Mr. Carroll, will you second?
Second.
And on that resolution, Mr. Booker.
Aye.
Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Weimer.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
Second reading is by title, an ordinance amending and supplementing the revised general ordinances of the City of Bayonne, Chapter 2, Administration. The council is now ready to give all persons interested in this ordinance an opportunity to be heard concerning it. The council president will recognize anyone who wishes to speak. No protest against, objections to, or statements in favor of this ordinance or its passage has been filed with me. May I have a motion to close?
Move it.
Second.
And on the motion to close, Mr. Booker.
Aye.
Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Weimer.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
And a resolution ordering final passage.
Move it.
Second.
And on the resolution for final passage, Mr. Booker. Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Weimer.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
06 is an ordinance amending and supplementing the revised general ordinances of the City of Bayonne, Chapter 7, Traffic, which was introduced and passed the first reading at the meeting held December 14th, was published in the Jersey Journal, and posted on the bulletin board as required by law, with notice that it would be further considered for final passage following a public hearing at this meeting of January 18th. Is now before the council for its consideration and a public hearing. And a resolution moved by Councilmember Perez, giving the ordinance second reading. Mr. La Palusa, will you second?
Second.
And on the resolution, Mr. Booker.
Aye.
Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Weimer.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
Second reading is by title, amending and supplementing the revised general ordinances of the City of Bayonne, Chapter 7, Traffic. The council is now ready to give all persons interested in this ordinance an opportunity to be heard concerning it. The council president will recognize anyone who wishes to speak. No protest against, objections to, or statements in favor of this ordinance or its passage has been filed with me. May I have a motion to close?
Motion. Second.
And on the motion to close, Mr. Booker.
Aye.
Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Weimer.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
And a resolution ordering final passage.
Second.
And on that resolution, Mr. Booker.
Aye.
Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Weimer.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa.
Aye. Madeline, at this time, we're going to ask Mike Hanley, our financial advisor, to please speak on the absorption study. Mike? Yeah, that's okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Council President. Mike Hanley from NW Financial. As you're aware, the city went out and collected data from all of the new developments within the city to determine if, in fact, there was sufficient occupancy and demand related to new residential projects in the city. The results were very strong. Of the over 2,500 new units that were through the lease-up period, the occupancy was above 95%. Many of them above 97%, which is all as good or better than you would look for in an underwriting. Additionally, a project that was currently leasing up at the time had reported 66 units in 3 months, over 20 units per month, which is excellent. I mean, a historical rate of 10 to 12 is something that you would consider good in underwriting a project. And, you know, these are not unexpected results. I mean, I think anecdotally we knew the projects in the city were doing well, but also the region needs units. The 2022 study identified by Up for Growth identified that there are 340,000 unit shortfall in the New York metropolitan area, of which 200,000 are rental units. Both before COVID and now it's been exacerbated after COVID, the vacancies are at an all-time low in new homes generally. You know, there's like less than a 1% vacancy. It's the lowest since 1957. As it relates to rental units, the vacancy rates are the lowest since 1984. And it's because we've seen an influx in the population and we haven't built quickly enough in the region. So the data that the city identified in its data collection is very consistent with what we're seeing throughout the region. And, you know, it doesn't matter whether it's Hackensack or Union Township or Weehawken or, you know,
everywhere has the same problem. Homes are very expensive. There are very few to even find, and so people need opportunities and more affordable places to live. And, you know, the city is obviously the most expensive, and as you go further out away from the city, people can get either more space or the same amount of space at a better price. And that's why there is so much demand in the marketplace. It's why institutions continue to invest in new units. And Bayonne's place in that marketplace is important, and the results, you know, prove that to be true.
So, Mike, just a question.
Yep.
This study took, was it the whole state of New Jersey? Was it the tri-state area? What was the
It was a
area?
study of the Up for Growth study was a study of the New York City metropolitan area. So
Okay.
New York, you know, and Connecticut,
We were
New York
included in
State,
that, but it's not
New
necessarily
Jersey.
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it goes further out in New Jersey than Bayonne, too. It's the general region.
Right.
But it's, I mean, I think we all have some experience, either as ourselves or with friends, relatives, et cetera. I mean, buying a home is super hard and super expensive. There's not enough rental units because they're all snatched up very quickly. And adding to the housing stock is what will ultimately make the region more affordable.
And Mike, so while while the Up for Growth study encompassed a much greater area, the absorption study that we commissioned took into account Bayonne only. So when you say to me that 95% of available units were occupied, that's in Bayonne alone?
Correct. Yeah, I bring up the Up for Growth study, and it's not just that. You know, it doesn't matter whether it's JLL or Newmark or any of the large real estate companies that evaluate vacancy and lease up in the region. That high 90% range is where the occupancy is. And that's because there aren't enough places to live for all the people that need places to live.
And you mentioned 340,000 units short, but you said 200,000 is rental units, so 140,000 is basically for sale homes then.
Their study
Condos.
thought that
included, right?
the split between what was needed was that of that 342,000, 200,000 of the need was rental and 142,000 was for sale property.
Okay.
And Mike, I wonder, you know, the majority of the units in Bayonne being built, and we all know this is a concern of mine because I'm concerned about the schools, but the majority of the units being built in Bayonne are all either studio or one-bedroom, few two-bedrooms. So does that study take into account the apartment size people are looking for? So, and then the demographic of
That
you know, the younger population are looking for, they're not looking to be homeowners, they're looking for, you know, a one bedroom and, you know, my friend that stays Friday night's going to plop on the couch. I don't need that extra bedroom.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a continuum, right? Like the shortfall is across all housing types. As it relates to school children and their populations, that study doesn't address it, but Rutgers has studied that multiple times. They did an initial study, I believe, in 2012, that identified multipliers for units and how many public school children they tend to attract. Small units have very few, particularly new ones, because they're expensive and small, right? I mean, if you're going to pay a lot and you have a lot of people living with you, you need them you need more space. They actually redid the study and lowered the multipliers in 2019, 18 or 19, I forget which year, because the newer units were producing even fewer school children. So people that were going to places that were more transit-oriented, and also the way the units were being built, created even fewer school children than the initial study had projected. So they redid the study, at the behest of the towns and the developers to more appropriately reflect what was going on in the marketplace.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Questions? Thank you, Mike.
Yep, no problem.
Cheryl Risgard. Other speakers. 07 is an ordinance of the Municipal Council of the City of Bayonne, County of Hudson, New Jersey, adopting the Central Constable Hook redevelopment plan for the property identified as Block 465, Lot 9, Block 466, Lot 1, 2, 3, and 4, and Block 478, Lots 1 and 1.01, as shown on the official tax map of the City of Bayonne, and a resolution fixing Wednesday, February 15th, at 7 p.m. in the Dorothy E. Harrington Council Chambers as a time and place for a public hearing and final passage. And resolution is moved by Council President. Mr. Perez, will you second?
Second.
And on the resolution, Mr. Booker.
Aye.
Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Weimer.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
08 is an ordinance amending and supplementing the revised general ordinances of the City of Bayonne, Chapter 7, Traffic, and a resolution moved by Councilmember Carroll fixing Wednesday, February 15th, at 7 p.m. in the Dorothy E. Harrington Council Chambers as a time and place for a public hearing and final passage. And Mr. Booker, will you second?
Second.
And on that resolution, Mr. Booker.
Aye.
Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Weimer.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
C1 is from the Superior Court of New Jersey in the matter entitled the L Group LLC versus the City of Bayonne Zoning Board of Adjustments. Who would like to move it to be received and filed?
So move.
And on the receiving file, the communications, Mr. Booker.
Aye.
Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Weimer.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
Officers' report is moved by the council as a whole, ordering the following resolutions to be received and filed, and any resolution incorporated within to be adopted. It covers OR 1 through OR 3. Any questions on the officers' report? And on the officers' reports, Mr. Booker.
Aye.
Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Weimer.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
Consent resolutions is also moved by the council as a whole, ordering the following resolutions to be adopted within it. It covers CR 1 through CR 28, with CR 23 being removed. Any questions on the consent resolutions?
CR 28, you said is removed?
No, CR 23.
22.
It goes
Okay,
to
thank you.
28, but 23 is out.
23 is it?
23 is out.
Okay.
Okay, and on the consent resolutions, Mr. Booker.
Aye.
Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Weimer.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
R1 is adopting the cash management, calendar year 2023 cash management plan. It's moved by the council president. Mr. Perez, will you second?
Second.
And on the resolution, Mr. Booker.
Aye.
Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Weimer.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
R2 is authorizing the purchasing agent to execute any and all documents and take any and all actions necessary to effectuate the procurement of a Caterpillar emergency generator for the use in City Hall and the installation thereof from Foley Power Systems. This is amending, actually, the resolution adopted 2109-22063, which is originally awarding in the amount of $623,493, and it's increasing the amount pursuant to a change order, which would be $798,533.
That's the total?
That's the new total, yes.
Okay,
Would like to move it.
move it.
Second.
And on that resolution, Mr. Booker.
Aye.
Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Weimer. Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
R3 is approving the filing of a notice in lieu deed notice for the section of Avenue J located perpendicularly between East 22nd Street and New Hook Road, and acknowledging the use restriction on the property and an obligation imposed on the city, and authorizing the execution of the notice in lieu of deed notice.
Move it.
Okay. And on that resolution, Mr. Booker.
Aye.
Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Weimer. Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
R4 is moved by the council president, authorizing the municipal council to execute agreements permitting the New Jersey Economic Development Authority to access city-owned property and conduct investigation activities on properties that are subject to the brownfield development grants. Mr. Perez, will you second?
Second.
And on that resolution, Mr. Booker.
Aye.
Mr. Carroll. Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Weimer. Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
R5 is approving emergency temporary budget number 1 in the calendar year 2023 municipal budget. It's moved by the council president. Mr. Booker, will you second?
Second.
And on the resolution, Mr. Booker.
Aye.
Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Weimer. Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
R6 is moved by council president Perez. Mr. La Palusa, will you second?
Second.
And it is authorizing the budgetary transfer number 3 in the calendar year 2022 budget, and actually needs to be read in full. It is resolved that the appropriating reserves transfer as set forth below pertaining to the calendar year 2022 appropriations being the same are hereby authorized, and be it further resolved that the comptroller be and is hereby authorized and directed to make said transfers in the accordance herewith. And it's from the account of municipal court salary and wages in the amount of $1,000 to the public defender, $4,000. And on that resolution, Mr. Booker.
Aye.
Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Weimer. Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
Okay. R7 is authorizing the mayor and city clerk to enter into a licensing agreement with White Glove Moving Storage, Inc. for parking at West 2nd Street for a fee of $20,000 monthly for a period of 1 year commencing January 1st.
If I can, the resolution might seem kind of trite, but I don't want to have a quandary in the future. There's actually a no finite date on this, but there's a cancellation period that allows for 120 days' notice to cancel the lease. Just don't want anybody accusing of us of obfuscating or not telling the truth here, so.
Who would like to move it?
So moved.
Second.
And on that resolution, Mr. Booker.
Aye.
Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Weimer. Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
R8 is authorizing the mayor and city clerk to enter into an agreement with CME Associates for professional engineering services as in-house engineer in connection with developers and redevelopers for a period of 1 year commencing January 1st for an amount not to exceed $1,200,000.
So moved.
Second.
And on that resolution, Mr. Booker.
Aye.
Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Weimer. Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
R9 is authorizing the mayor and city clerk to enter into an agreement with CME Associates for professional engineering services as in-house engineer in connection with the, wait a minute. This one is for the city, I'm sorry, for a period of 1 year commencing January 1st for an amount not to exceed $500,000.
So move.
500,000, she said.
And a second?
Second.
And on that resolution, Mr. Booker.
Aye.
Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Weimer. Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
Is an agreement with Matrix New World Engineering for professional engineering services to act as a special projects engineer in connection with the developers and redevelopers for a period of 1 year commencing January 1st for an amount not to exceed $400,000. One right, yeah. The totals are different on the agenda because I was told that they were same totals from last year.
What is the total on this?
This one is $400,000.
So R10 is 400,000?
Yes. No, it's $400,000.
Next, the one coming out of the redevelopers and developers escrows.
Special project engineer, add that, okay.
So move.
Second.
These are the 13th hour resolutions.
15th hour.
And on the resolution, Mr. Booker.
Aye.
Mr. Carroll?
And we're confident in this new number, 400,000?
Yeah, it's in the resolution.
This is more, and that was 300,000.
There were two resolutions for a special project end year. The first one is for,
They're both the matrix.
they're both for Matrix. One is billed to developers and redevelopers, the other is billed to the city.
And this is the one for the city. So R10 should be special project engineer to developers and redevelop escrow accounts.
Correct.
And that Madeline, you said that was 400,000.
400,000.
So that we corrected that total, right?
Yes,
Okay, so now the next one, R11, is that also 400,000?
yes.
Okay, thank you.
And on the resolution, Mr. Booker.
Aye.
Mr. Carroll?
Aye.
Mr. Perez?
Aye.
Ms. Weimer? Mr. La Palusa?
Aye.
R11 is entering into an agreement with Matrix New World Engineering for professional engineering services to act as special project engineer on behalf of the city for an amount not to exceed $400,000 for a period of 1 year commencing January 1st.
Move it.
Second.
And on that resolution, Mr. Booker.
Aye.
Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Weimer.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
R12 is authorizing the mayor and city clerk to enter into an agreement with Civil Solutions for professional engineering services in connection with the maintenance of the City of Bayonne's digital tax map for a period of 1 year commencing January 1st, 2023, for an amount not to exceed $24,500.
Move it.
Second.
And on that resolution, Mr. Booker. Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Weimer.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
R13 is authorizing the mayor and city clerk to enter into an agreement with Reliable Paper Recycling for the receipt of the city's recycling commodities of mixed paper only for a period of 1 year commencing January 1st, and that should be 2023.
Move it.
And second?
Second.
And on that resolution, Mr. Booker.
Aye.
Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Weimer.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
R14 is an agreement with Sims Municipal Recycling for the receipt of the city's recycling commingled, which includes glass, metal cans, and plastic for a period of 1 year. And that's also from January 1st, 2023.
Move it.
Second.
And on the resolution, Mr. Booker.
Aye.
Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Weimer.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
R15 is authorizing the mayor and city clerk to enter into an agreement with Triad Advisory Services for consulting services related to the planning and implementing the city's community development block grant for a period of 1 year commencing January 1st, 2023, for an amount not to exceed $45,600.
So move.
Second.
And on the resolution, Mr. Booker.
Aye.
Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Weimer.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
R16 is authorizing the mayor and city clerk to enter into an agreement with Bayonne Economic Opportunity Foundation for administration services related to the city's community development block grant program for a period of 1 year commencing January 1st, 2023, for an amount not to exceed $220,000.
So move.
Second.
And on the resolution, Mr. Booker.
Aye.
Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Weimer.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
R17 is authorizing the mayor and city clerk to enter into an agreement with John Pulvich, for professional engineering services to act as municipal traffic engineer in connection with the developer and redevelopers for a period of 1 year commencing January 1st, 2023, for an amount not to exceed $50,000.
Move it.
Second.
And on the resolution, Mr. Booker.
Aye.
Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Weimer.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
R18, the total amounts are different on the agenda as the resolution. It is authorizing an agreement with Timothy J. Moriarty Esquire for chief engineer, municipal prosecutor for an amount of $400 per municipal court session for a total amount not to exceed $79,200. And Stephen R. Hummel Esquire as alternative municipal prosecutor for an amount of $400 per municipal court session for an amount not to exceed $28,000. And in the event of a municipal appeals requiring superior court appearances at an additional rate of $75 per hour for a maximum of $1,000 per appeal for a total combined amount not to exceed $112,000. It's for a period of 1 year commencing January 1st.
So it was, a
What's
few
on
of them
the-
were changed. I just want
Yeah.
to go over those numbers again,
Yeah.
if that's okay.
Absolutely.
A maximum of $1,000 per appeal, is that the right number?
Right, that's if they go to superior court.
And then, right, and if they go, the total combined amount not to exceed, that was a different
That-
number.
that's
That's a
for- that's
different
for
number, that
mis-
should be 5,000, okay.
Right.
See, this is where then you have to get in the heart of the whole
Okay, what's
resolution.
5,000? A
5,000,
maximum of
the max that
5,000
we're going to pay towards
towards
any
an
appeals.
appeal.
Right.
And then what was the total not to exceed?
For appeals, $5,000. The total to,
Okay, but it's got a total here, and you're telling me that that's changed?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. 112?
112 altogether.
Okay.
Would like to move it. I wouldn't.
And I'll move it.
Second?
I'll second it.
And on the resolution, Mr. Booker.
Aye.
Mr. Carroll?
Just clarifying, this is for our prosecutor, not for the public defender.
Public defender was awarded last month, yeah.
Aye.
Mr. Perez?
Aye.
Ms. Weimer?
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa?
Aye.
R19 is appointing Timothy J. Moriarty Esquire and Stephen R. Hummel as chief municipal prosecutor and alternate municipal prosecutor respectively, and assistant city attorneys Carla Garcia Esquire, Jessica H. Connors, and Law Director John F. Coffey II Esquire as alternative municipal prosecutors for the City of Bayonne's Municipal Court for a period of 1 year commencing January 1st.
So move.
And on the resolution, Mr. Booker.
Aye.
Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Weimer.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
R20 is authorizing the mayor and city clerk to enter into an agreement with Clark, Caton, and Hintz, P.C., for professional planning services to act as the city's town planner consultant for a period of 1 year, commencing January 1st, 2023, for an amount not to exceed $700,000.
Move it.
Second.
And on that resolution, Mr. Booker. Aye. Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Weimer. Aye. Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
R21 is authorizing the mayor and city clerk to enter into an agreement with Clark, Caton, Hintz for professional planning services as the council on affordable housing for a period of 1 year commencing January 1st for an amount not to exceed $36,000.
Move it.
Second.
On the resolution, Mr. Booker.
Aye.
Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Weimer. Aye. Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
R22 is authorizing the mayor and city clerk to enter into an agreement with NW Financial Group for financial advisory services for a period of 1 year commencing January 1st for an amount not to exceed $225,000. $225. R22. Mm-hmm.
Increase.
Yeah.
No, it's the same, it's just, I don't know where that number is.
Where did that 75 come from?
I know, I don't know.
But it's the same as free.
So moved.
All right, to be clear, the number we're looking at right now is how much?
225.
And it was, Donna said it was the same as last year.
Last year.
Yeah. Who'd like the second?
Second.
And on the resolution, Mr. Booker.
Aye.
Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Weimer.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa.
Aye. Madeline, at this time, I know we have a few add-ons.
I just have one.
My colleague Neil Carroll has an important resolution that he needs the law department to prepare, and he's going to talk about it.
In light of the recent tragedy involving the Bayonne Bridge, I would like to make a motion directing our law department to address a letter to the Port Authority asking that they accomplish two tasks. One, as instantly as possible, and the second, as fast as humanly possible. The first is the addition of two signs, one on either end of the bridge, with the suicide prevention hotline number to be provided in large enough print so as people can see it, not just walking on the bridge, but also driving on the bridge. I think that's something that can be accomplished immediately. What may take longer, and what I request we, providing it, my colleagues agree, that we all sign on to, is requesting that they provide us with a plan for the immediate future of how to install either safety fencing or safety netting or some sort of preventative material on the right-hand side of the bridge, the road side. So on the walkway side, there is fencing there that is very, very difficult to overcome. On the driving side, on the road side, there appears to be little to no protection, except for cars. You know, God forbid there was an accident, but there's nothing to prevent someone from getting out. I would ask my colleagues to agree and ask that the law department draft that as soon as possible. Thank you.
I second it.
So I think we have a consensus, right? I think everybody you spoke to one-on-one.
Yes.
And if the law department can draft it up as soon as possible, we'll do a resolution and do it as a whole.
Thank you.
Okay. So, yeah, you move
So
it, and
we
Mr.
can't
Perez
move it
second.
until he writes the resolution. Right.
You can still vote on the motion.
You can what?
You can vote on this motion
So as a whole?
as a whole.
Yep. Everybody okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I firmly agree with that one. Okay.
Well, that's a good thing. It's definitely needed.
And the only add-on I do,
That might include an emergency phone on that side of the bridge as well, just having the ability to call 911.
The county recently installed.
Right.
Yeah, the blue lights,
The parks,
the blue lights,
So I
right.
wonder if we might have that
Right.
letter
I think
included.
that would be great.
They do have, I know, at least one, but they could increase the amount they have as well on the bridge. No, the bridge I'm talking about. Yeah.
Right, even in close proximity
Yeah,
to perhaps the suicide.
As
prevention.
much safety as possible, sure, most security and safety.
I think installing the phones actually definitely, citizens will want to get involved and not get involved, but at least you get law enforcement to respond to that area. And it falls in line with see something, say something. Yes, I agree.
I agree.
we'll take the vote on that motion. On that motion, Mr. Booker?
Aye.
Mr. Carroll?
Aye.
Mr. Perez?
Aye.
Ms. Weimer?
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa?
Aye.
Okay. And what I have is, one add-on is from the Honorable James M. Davis, appointing Sean Kemp and Camille Burgess as regular members to the Rent Control Board, terms to expire January 31st, 2026, and a resolution consenting to said appointments. Would like to receive and file it.
Second.
And on that one, Mr. Booker.
Aye.
Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Weimer.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
That's all I have.
Is there anything else?
That's it. That, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Nothing else?
Second.
And on the motion to adjourn, Mr. Booker.
Aye.
Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Weimer.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa.
Have a good night, everybody. Aye. Aye.